Today I want to give people as accurate of a picture as I can possibly give you of what's going on in the housing market, kind of like I did the other day for the job market, because there's a lot of conflicting information flying around about all of this stuff. And really, for the average person that's not paying attention to this stuff on a regular basis, probably has no idea what's going on. You just go from headline to headline and take whatever they tell you at face value, but the truth couldn't be further from what they're telling you, guys. Because the first thing I want to start with is how right now is actually a buyer's market. And even though by traditional historical standards it's not, which means we need to have more than 6 months worth of inventory on the US housing market for it to be considered a buyer's market, the rules of the game have been changing, because buyer demand is extremely low. You know, we're talking demand levels that we haven't seen since the early 1990s, all right? And at the same token, Redfin just came out with some data showing us that there are 36.8% more sellers than buyers as of October of 2025. And that is the largest gap in their records dating back to 2013, which means you just have way too many sellers and not enough buyers right now. And that's the sort of imbalance that we can use to define a buyer's market. It doesn't have to be a certain level of inventory anymore. It's more the state of affairs that kind of defines whether it's a seller's market or buyer's market. Because put the shoe on the other foot. If you had 36% more buyers than sellers, we would be calling it a seller's market, right? But it isn't. In fact, even Redfin is changing how they define things. Redfin now defines a buyer's market as one with at least 10% more sellers than buyers. Well, by that standard, we are in a full-blown buyer's market because it is triple that. In fact, Redfin is telling us that the last time we had a buyer's market this strong was in the years following 2008 after the big housing market crash. And what have I been telling you on this channel for the past couple of months? If you are somebody who's looking to buy right now, it is the best time it has been in a while. Is it the best time? No, it's not. But compared to 2022, 2023, 2024, absolutely, so much better. Prices are coming down and are cheaper in many instances than it was in 2022. Interest rates are a little bit lower than they were over the past few years. And most of all, you have more selection, more choices as a buyer, which is extremely important. And of course, there is a catch though, and the catch is, even though it's a buyer's market, can you afford to buy at today's prices? And the answer for most people, unfortunately, is no. So a buyer's market doesn't automatically mean that all buyers are qualified and everybody just has plenty of options to choose from. But of course, as these conditions persist, then more sellers are going to have to come to grips with reality and price their property appropriately to get it sold if they're serious about selling. You know, one of the questions they pose in this Redfin article, is it really a buyer's market if so many buyers are still priced out and therefore not even looking? I would say yes. And the reason is because if you are looking and you can afford it, it is a buyer's market. It doesn't mean that every buyer out there or wannabe buyer has to be qualified or has to have the money to buy. That's not what defines a buyer's market. And the reason also why I say yes is not only by how much the sellers outnumber the buyers, but also because the longer that these conditions persist, the more the inventory will build, the lower the prices will come down, and therefore will lead to a situation where even more buyers are going to be in the market for a home and be able to afford one. So conditions are only going to get better over the next couple of years, not worse. Another thing to cut through the noise is forget about the median home prices, guys. According to Cotality, which was previously CoreLogic, they're saying that as of September, home prices nationwide on a median basis are 1.2% higher than they were a year ago, which is a nothing burger for a few different reasons. Number one is inflation. CPI is sitting at 3%. Official inflation is much higher, probably around 6%. So these homes are still essentially losing 5% a year right now when adjusted for inflation. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that wages are still going up more than those home values. You know, the wage increase information that we got from the most recent BLS report is people are seeing a 3.6 or 3.8% increase in wages. So for the first time in a while, wages are actually outpacing home price growth. which is going to make it easier for people to save. Let's face it, half the country is seeing home price declines right now. There is no growth. It's a decline. So if you're in a situation or a market where your income is going up, but home prices are coming down, that is wonderful news if you've been patient and have been waiting to buy a house. And if it feels like housing is still unaffordable in your area, just keep being patient, guys. Just keep waiting, keep saving, keep finding ways to increase your income, and your turn will come. We are in that market now where the tide is turning in your favor, and it's only a matter of time before you're going to be able to afford it. And don't forget, anybody who needs a buyer's agent or a seller's agent, I always have a link down in the description below. I have these services available to you 100% for free. And if you use it, not only is it helpful to you, but it helps the channel, and I appreciate it.